Okay, we're gonna be going over the SSA 1099 form first. Let me get to that. Give me a second. Okay. On this form, we're gonna make sure that the date corresponds to the tax year. And all the tax forms should have the 2022 for the filing current year. Some clients will, of course, will bring previous year saying that it's the same information with the same amounts. And sometimes that can be true, but we still got to check the information to make sure that everything is accurate and the same. We also can check in the system for the previous clients, like if they filed with us before, we can check if their tax return has the same amounts. If not, we would have to see if they're new clients, we would have to see their new form. But usually on this form, we're gonna always look for box 1, their name is the same. Box 5, where they usually have, well, this is a 2021 version, because on the 2022, oh, the box 6 is right here. The box 6 is the one that's gonna be filled in with the amount. And they usually have Medicare benefits that are paid out, which we also need to add on the tax forms when putting it into the system. So we got to look for usually those amounts, and it'll have it here in this description of amount for the Medicare. And then that's basically it for the Social Security forms. Now, the 1099-R retirement form is a little bit different, and everybody should receive a copy of it if they receive retirement benefits of $10 or more from their retirement plan. On this form, we're going to be looking for the payer's name and their TIN number, and to make sure that the Social Security matches the name that we have on the application. Box 1 and box 2A are the ones that are usually filled in, and it'll let us know if the amount is taxable amount not determined, or we have to figure that out. And if we do, that would be for like an advance, or if it's check mark total distribution. Usually the forms will come with one or the other one marked, and if it has federal income withheld as well, because all that makes a difference on when putting it into the system and they're doing their tax return. Also, as you can see that this one has employee contributions, we do need to add box 5 and box 7, the codes that are for there. Some of them do have the IRA simple check mark. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I was.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sometimes the IRA check, the box is check mark. So when that is, it does make a difference. So we got to make sure to put that also in there. Let me see the next one. So usually on this form, it's just going to be 1, 2A, 4, 5, and 7 that are usually filled in. So we just want to check for accuracy and make sure that we're just putting in all the correct information, because we don't want to mess up their returns. So
Ashley, can you unmute yourself? I got muted.
okay.
There you
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, for the 1098T education credit, this one is for students who paid qualifying education expenses in their tax year. Qualifying expenses include tuition, any fees that are required for enrollment, course materials to be enrolled or attend there at the school that they're attending, or college, should I say. If the student is a dependent, the parents will claim the credit, but we still have to add the student's name and everything, not the parent's name. You got to make sure that it'll give you on the system, it'll give you to put the correct name of the student, even though they're the dependent. And in the beginning of when entering into the system, it'll ask you if, when you're putting in the dependents information, it'll ask you if the student is a dependent or if he makes his own income and stuff like that. You got to make sure to put that the student is a dependent. And that lets them know that the parent is claiming the student, and it adjusts the amount here. Here, usually box 1 and box 5 and box 8 are the ones that are going to be filled in. Sometimes we have box 7 as well filled in, but usually it's box 1, 5, and 8. And if the student wishes to receive this credit themselves, they would have to file by themselves, like independent. And more on the education credit is if the student qualifies for an American Opportunity Credit, we must know in what year they are in, because the American Opportunity Credit only allows you to do 4 years to claim the credit for the American Opportunity. And they must have 40% of they can get 40% of the credit to be refundable, like for related books, supplies, and equipment. And it's 2,500 credit per student. And the 4,000 is for the qualifying education expense. Now, if they've been claiming the credit for 4 years, then they do qualify for the lifetime learning credit. And the lifetime learning credit has no limit. It's the second most beneficial credit to use when having related school expenses, and can reduce the amount of their tax that they pay. But this credit is only for 2,000 per tax return. It's required for books, supplies, and other things. The maximum amount for qualified expenses would be 10,000 for this lifetime learning credit. Do y'all have any questions on the education credit? Because I forgot to ask if you had any questions for the SSA form or the 1099R form, retirement. Does anybody have questions?
On this one, how do we know for what they qualify, like for the American credit or for the lifetime credit?
Okay, great question. When they fill out the intake form and they put that the student has already been to, let me see the form. When they put on the dependents and they put the student is a full-time student, right there, it's the intake's responsibility to ask, okay, how long has they been attending college, or is this their first year? And that's how we'll determine. But also if they're previous clients in the system, we always like to go back and check, like, okay, have they claimed the American Opportunity Credit before? Or what was the last credit that they used for education purposes? So that way we determine if they've had 4 years or more in education credit. Did that answer your question?
Well, if let's say if the client requests the American Opportunity Credit, so they are going to be allowed to get only 4 years. So that means that if he continue with his education, he's not going to get credit anymore?
No, ma'am. They don't request it. Like if it's their first time filing the education credit, like let's say it's their first time bringing a 1098T form, which is the form on the screen. If it's their first time bringing it, they're allowed to use that credit for the next 3 years along with this year that they're filing for. So that makes the 4 years. After that, they would have to use a lifetime learning credit.
Oh, I get you. Okay, thank you.
Yes, and usually you can determine, like, if let's say that they have a bachelor's degree, associates is usually 2 years and bachelor's is already 4 years. So, most of the time, if they're not aware of the credit and if they are aware of the credit, they would have already used the 4 years with a bachelor's degree.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes, ma'am.
You can also check on box 9, right? Where it says
Yes,
check if a
right here.
graduate student, if they're graduates, then they would fall into the lifetime learning. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, that is correct. If this box is check marked or X marked, that is automatically lifetime learning credit.
Let me add to that on that question. So if someone graduated in December, that's half, right? Half a year.
Mhm.
Would they still be able to be claimed this year, even though they graduated in December with a bachelor's of 2021? Would they still be able to claim that?
They would be able
that
to claim
student?
yes, they would still be able to claim the student, but it would be for lifetime learning credit, not the American
Because
Opportunity.
because now they've already had the 4 years, the bachelor's.
Yeah.
Even
Yes,
though
unless they have never, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, even though they may have completed that education within less than 4 years,
Yes,
because some students will. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna note that as long as they have not used the American Opportunity Credit at all, they are allowed to use that credit. But if they have already used it for 4 years, they cannot use the American Opportunity Credit no longer. It would
So
have to be the lifetime.
Okay, because if someone did graduate in December, then they'll be getting the statement, right?
Yes.
For the
all
full year.
Yes, all students will receive the 1098T form. And if they don't receive it, they always have access on the school websites, whether it's
school
UTRGV or TSC or STC, they all have access to, all students have access to their 1098T form online.
Right, online. Because I mean, because obviously this is 2021 we're talking about. 2022, I'm sorry. This year, 2022. And this student graduated December of 2021. So they did not go to school all of this year. So they cannot be claimed. That's what I'm trying to say. Right?
Okay, if they didn't go to school all of this year, and no, they could not claim
Okay.
it.
So it could have been if they graduated this December.
It's only if for the qualifying year, whichever
Okay.
they're filing
I got
for, then they would have to use that for it. Now, if they have for a previous year and they didn't add it, they can always amend their tax return and add that form in there to receive the credit.
I got it.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so last year when I went to go get my taxes done, they told me that they couldn't add the 1098T because I don't know if the tuition or the grant was bigger. So they're like, oh, well, we can't give you anything. So they didn't add it. I don't
Okay.
know if.
Well, what you can always do is amend your tax return for that year, and you can always add your 1098T, and then they will adjust the credit that you're supposed to receive. Are you a dependent?
No.
You file
I
your own
file
taxes?
married.
Okay, well, as long as you filed married, everything will stay the same. The only thing is that you would have to, if you filed somewhere else, I mean, we would have to fix it for you, you know, recreate the whole thing. But so that way you can get the exact amounts and you can get what you're credited for the school. But if you didn't file with, I mean, if you filed somewhere else, we would just need all your information in order to fix that, and you can amend it and get the credit that you're supposed to be issued for, because everybody receives a credit for their school.
Really, and it's been 2 years, and I get it at H&R Block.
Every client has up to, I believe, 5 years that they can go back and do amendments.
Yeah,
Oh,
because I
okay.
always like when she's asking, I have the same issue. But my daughter is my dependent, and they said, but because she qualified for FAFSA, she didn't need to submit that 1098. So
No, you would
so
just
it's
have
I
to
don't know what
amend
she
your tax. You would just have to amend your tax return and determine how much of the credit you can get. If she would have to have box 1 and box 5 filled out though, and box 8
okay.
on their form.
Thank you.
Yes, in order to do the amended return. But it can always be fixed and you can always add it as long as it's 5 years and back, you can always amend.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. So the next thing we're gonna be going over are some examples that we have, but before I go into that, let me show everybody how to get an account on the practice lab. Can everybody log on to if you have access to a computer or phone, to the irs.gov? And then so we're gonna log on to irs.gov. And then here we're gonna type in link and learn on the search bar. If I'm going too fast, please let me know, or if you need me to stop so that way y'all can do it, let me know.
Can you hold on?
Yes.
Thank you.
And you said to type link and learn?
Yes, link and learn the way I have it here on the search bar.
I don't see it. Oh, link and learn. Okay.
Okay. So after we type in link and learn, of course, we're going to put search, and then we're going to click right here where it says link and learn taxes. And then again, right here where it says link and learn. Once we get to this side, we're going to hit VITA TSC Central. Is everybody on this page? So yesterday we created an account right here. We're not going to do that
Yes.
today. Today, we're going to go into the practice lab where it says quick links. And then it'll give you this. Your password's going to be all capitalized. Train Web Pro, like train as in TRAIN, Web WEB, and then Pro PRO. All
Train.
capitalized.
It's backwards. It's Train Pro Web.
TRAIN?
Oh, it's backwards.
Yes, Train Pro Web. I put the password in the chat.
Okay.
It's all
Train
caps, Train Pro,
Web.
PRO Web, WEB.
Yeah, this one right here in this password. All capitalized.
And that password, actually, can you go back to the link and learn?
Oh, yes.
The password is also at the bottom of the page. On the note, on the yellow one, it's right there. Where the mouse is at. You move too far.
Oh, it is.
Yes, it says, please use the generic password Train Pro Web to gain access to the lab. So if
Oh,
you ever
yes.
forget
Oh,
the
right
password,
here.
the password is
Yeah, it's right there. Yes, it's right there.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's the password. Okay.
It's asking me for a username. Do we have a username?
Okay, this
Yeah,
is
me too.
this is where we're getting to. Right here, we're gonna create an account. And then, of course, you're gonna fill in your information, your email address, your personal email address, your own username and password. And then the program, of course, is gonna be VITA. You don't have to worry about the site identification number. And then you're gonna create a security question, of course. And then when you guys are done doing that, let me know. Everybody else is on this screen, on the practice lab home?
Yes.
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 Okay, once we're on this screen, we're gonna go to the go to practice area on the very top. Do you all get this same screen that I have?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a second, let me go back to the PowerPoint and where we're at. So we're gonna be doing this practice one of Ortega. So when we're first doing it, this is like if we're putting this information into the system. The practice lab is showing us, give me a second. Oh. So we're gonna be looking at Ortega's place right here. We're gonna click on Start New 2022 Tax Return and select it.
Uh-huh.
So here, the head of the household is gonna be Daniel Ramirez Ortega. So Danny is retired and Myra is a part-time sales associate. Myra did not have insurance for any time during the year, and Danny had health coverage for the entire year through Medicaid Part B. Their source of income for the year is Danny's pension distribution and Social Security, as well as Myra's part-time jobs. Myra and Danny are U.S. citizen and have valid Social Security numbers. Myra brings a letter from the IRS issuing her identity theft PIN number. Myra and Danny care for their grandniece, Cheryl, who lived with them all year and for whom they paid all living expenses. Cheryl has health coverage through CHIPS for the entire year. So here, the head of the household would be the Danny Ortega, right? We're gonna enter his social as you see it on the Social Security card. Twice.
Is there any way that can make the screen bigger? Because like I can't see the numbers.
You can't see these numbers?
No.
I can't see them either.
Can you see
The
it like
screen
that?
is-
With your phone, you
There
can
you
zoom
go.
in.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to show both screens so that way you all could see where I'm going through. But on the
Yeah.
phone,
Right.
you should be able to zoom in.
Okay, let me see. Because what I have right now on my phone is where I'm going to be completing. Oh, I see. Well,
Yes.
that's about retirement.
We're on Ortega right here.
Right, but I can't see. 600, is that 600-00?
Yes, the Social Security is 600-00-1452. As you can see on this side, the zeros are already in there. So you're just gonna need to type in the 600-1452
1452, okay.
2 times. Because
2
we're
times.
confirming the Social Security.
All right.
After that, you don't need to click anything else but to start the return.
Okay.
We're gonna click continue. Is everybody on the same page?
Yes.
So here,
Continue, do we continue?
we're on the filing status page. Is everybody there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
What do you guys think that his filing status is gonna be?
Married, finally, jointly.
Yes.
Does everybody agree?
Yes.
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 We're gonna click married filing jointly and then we're gonna continue. So here, let me see if I can go to the next. So this is the intake process of the form that we receive whenever the clients come in. Right? And here, we're gonna put in the information the same way that we see it on the form. So you're gonna fill in. Well, actually, we put in the same information that's on their Social Security card. We don't want to put in something different. So if he has Danielle, you need to put Danielle and not Danny.
Daniel Ramirez Ortega.
And the Ramirez does not go in the middle name because it is not a middle name. It is a last name. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be Ramirez Ortega here.
Together.
Yes. If they have 2 last names, it never goes as a middle name.
Okay. And I'm seeing that you're using all caps.
Yes, usually we use all caps because it's much better to understand.
Okay.
It's easier for us to read. And then we go back to the form. Here, as you can see, it says date of birth of the client is 2/1/1950. That's where we're gonna put right here. 2/1/1950.
1950.
Yes. Now their occupation, he is what? Retired?
Desire.
We're
Retired.
gonna write retired on here. Okay. And we know that he's not blind because this would be check marked if they were disabled or if they were legally blind or a full-time student. So since they're not a dependent, they're not a full-time student, they're not blind, and they're not deceased, none of these will be check marked. Now, on the second part of the form, or should I say the third, here is where we'll see like number 2, if they want to send contributions to a presidential election campaign fund. So if this says you know that's the taxpayer. If it's this, it's the spouse's one. So we would click this for the taxpayer if this was check marked in.
Oh,
Since it's not, we don't have to worry about that.
no, no, no.
And they
Okay.
didn't put that they're in the combat zone. They didn't put that they're a non-resident alien for the year because as we saw on the front of the application, they're US citizens. And then on the third page, also it would tell us here if they would like to receive written communications in English. And if they would put, other than English, they would put yes, and then they would put Spanish, of course. And when they do that, we usually click this one and we would put Spanish here. But since this one doesn't have it, we don't need to worry about that.
So what I'm gathering from all of this is this form that they're going to be completing at the point of intake is what we're going to be using to guide us.
Yes, and to enter in the information here.
Information. Okay.
And of
Alright.
course, sometimes they write, their short name, like here it says Danny, but on their social security card is what we want to go by all the
Correct.
time. So for the spouses, we're going to put Myra. She doesn't have a middle name, and then automatically it'll generate the last name, but we would take off Ramirez because she does not have that on her social security card.
Ah, I
So
see.
you want to put it exactly the same because we don't want the return to be rejected just because there's an extra name on there or it wasn't
Correct.
entered correctly. Because we
Correct.
do have that situation.
Okay. And by
So-
this time, we would have already, the point of entry, the intake person would have seen their social security numbers.
Oh, no, we received those copies, so it would be all with
Okay.
their documents.
Oh,
So
okay. So we do have the copies.
Yes, and
Okay.
as the tax preparers, we need to make sure that we put in the correct information.
All right.
So
Yeah.
now her social security is
Yeah,
60.
just something I want to add. The intake people, they're only in the front. They never go and prepare a tax return. So they wouldn't
Okay.
know if the names are the same.
Okay.
They just receive the documents and make the copies. So there's her social security is 601-00-1245. Is everybody on the same page here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So for her date of birth, 10/1,
October the 1st, 55.
yeah, 10/1/1955. And then her occupation is sales. So we would write sales. She is not permanently disabled. She's not a full-time student and she is not blind. And she cannot be claimed as a dependent because all of this says no, no, no. She is a victim of identity theft. So we will get to that part soon. You don't have to worry about that on this page. But here you would write the address that they have on here, 634 East Levy Street. And then, of course, the zip code. Their phone number, they have it on there, 956-548-6880.
Please make sure they don't give us a Mexican phone number.
Yes, because we do not accept Mexican numbers. We
Okay.
need to have a proper contact in order to contact them. And we don't have their papers just sitting there.
54, what was the number? 548 6880.
6880 and the secondary is 548-6881.
Miss Ashley, would it matter if they gave us a phone number and say that it's a relative, but they can be reached there or receive messages from them there?
Yes, as long as it's a number we can actually contact them in, it's okay, as long as it's not Mexico.
Okay.
It could be from Houston, from anywhere out of state, as long as we can contact them and it's not from Mexico. Because we can't call out to Mexico from our phone.
Okay.
And of course, if they provide emails, sometimes clients do like to provide their emails. You can always enter it here. At this point, we don't need to worry about that. So everybody continue.
Yes.
So do they have a dependent?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna click
Yes,
yes
they're
then.
granny.
They do.
Right here is the dependent information.
Is it Cheryl?
Cheryl Marie Sims. Let me see if I can. Cheryl Marie Sims. So here we're gonna write Cheryl M, not the whole middle name. And then erase the one that generates, populates, and we're gonna put Sims. Her date of birth is 6/12/2013.
6/12/2013.
2013.
13.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go back to the front page. Her social security is 602-00-3333. 602-00-3333. I don't know if I said that too many times.
No, that's fine.
It's fine. Never too many times.
Okay, and then here, she's lived in the household for 12 months. That's the full year. She is a grandniece, right? Or a daughter?
Granny.
Grannies.
Okay, and she is a US citizen. She is single. She's not a full-time student, nor is she permanently disabled. So here on the bottom, yes, she's a US citizen. She's a grandniece.
So what would you, niece or other? Because it's not there.
We would put grandchild,
Grandchild. Okay.
because it did say niece, right?
I don't, let me see. A
Yeah,
grandniece.
niece, yeah. Well, we would put grandchild for this case. And she did live in the home for 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
She's not over the age of 18 nor full-time student, so we wouldn't check that. She's not disabled, so we're not gonna check that. Check if this is a qualifying child, is not your dependent. She is their dependent because they provided
All year support.
all year, all living expenses. She is not
So-
married. She did not work and make 4,300. And she doesn't qualify for a multiple support declaration. So we're gonna leave all these blank and press continue.
Okay.
And remember, we wanna make sure that everything is filled in correctly.
It brought me to her name, dependent or qualifying child.
What do you mean?
The
Yeah.
screen.
It's
So just
like if we
continue?
wanna add more dependents.
Okay.
Oh,
So
you just press continue. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
All
can
right.
continue.
If,
Okay,
like,
thank
if they had more than one dependent,
Then you would add.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
then
Now
we
I'm
would
at
add.
that screen that you're at. Okay. I'm on that screen.
Okay. So on here, let me see. I'm gonna use the examples we already had here. So we're not gonna put in a W2 or nothing. So we're gonna use this 1099-R. So if we wanted to put in a 1099-R, we're gonna click on where the income page is. Is everybody on this page?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, right here it says Form 1099-R, RRB, and SSA. We're gonna click begin. Is everybody on this page where it says IRA/pension distribution?
Yes.
We're
Yes.
gonna
Yes.
we're gonna click begin.
Oh, wait, it brought me, because I hit W-2 and it's not a W-2,
No, it's a
It's
1099-R.
1099-R, right?
I know this one says a different name on the example, but we're just gonna use Ortega for this.
Okay. So we hit begin,
Yes.
okay?
And then we're gonna click as him as being the taxpayer that received it.
Uh-huh.
And the payer's ID is which one?
Oh, can't see it, but
Let me see.
It says 74.
Yes. 746
6000173.
Yes. If you
I don't
push
know if
tab,
I'm sorry, I don't know if anybody's aware that in the email where we got the Zoom link, they also have the examples that she has on her screen that's minimized that you can click and follow on your computer.
yeah, but we would have to be toggling back and forth, right? Like,
Yeah.
unless you have multiple screens.
yeah.
I just split screen mine.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So after you put in the number, usually when you push tab, it'll populate by itself, the information.
Which is all there. The only thing that's missing, it says phone number optional.
Yes, and usually it has the phone number, but on this example, we're not gonna put it because
Okay.
it's irrelevant on this case. So
Okay.
of course, we're gonna go make sure that even if they have an address that is different on their intake application, we're gonna put in exactly the address they have on this form. We're never gonna keep it the same just because it generates that address. We always want to put the address that is on the form. So if he had, like, let's use this address. If he had, instead of 634, he has 12 East Levy Street. Or, I mean, sorry, Levy Street, East 14th Street. That is the address that we are gonna use. And the zip code is 78520 instead of 26.
So you're changing it because it's on the form?
Yes, because we always want to put the same information that's on the form.
On the form, okay. So
Yes,
from
we do.
634 East Levy, we're changing it to 12 East 14th.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if they would have had 634 East Levy on their form, then we keep it the same. But if they don't, we always want to put the exact same address that they have on the form. The same goes for the payer's information. It generates when you put tab, but if it has a different address associated, you need to put whatever's on the form.
Okay.
You don't just keep it the same just because it's already on there.
All right.
And then the gross distribution is 25, 450, 22. And usually for tax purposes, they don't ever count the cents, but we do want to put the same exact information that's on the form.
Correct.
And then you push tab and usually it populates. But just because it populates the amount doesn't mean that it's always going to be the same amount on the form.
Okay.
Okay. I'm a little bit confused with that.
What's your question, ma'am? What are you confused about?
Why? I think it's just a screen. I'm fine. Don't worry. Thanks.
Are you sure? Because I want you to understand what you're doing when you're filling out the form. I don't want you to.
Yeah, no, I get
Click on.
confused because yours, it just half a screen and then I see my entire screen.
Oh, okay.
That's why.
Okay. So here you see 2B does not have no check mark on taxable amount not determined or on total distribution. So we could leave these blank. It does have number 4 filled in, so we're gonna put 88872. Because that is the federal income tax withheld from them.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna go to 5 and it has 14052. You have to make sure that you put everything that is on the form. We don't want to leave nothing out because it does make a difference on their tax return.
Okay.
And the distribution code is 7. We have all different codes, so make sure to put the exact number that is on there.
Mhm.
The IRA does not have no check mark, so we're gonna leave that blank. And then you don't pay attention to nothing else but what's on the form, and we continue. That's when it asks, did you make any early withdrawal from a retirement account due to qualified disaster? Usually the client on the intake form will state right here, let me show you. On, I believe it's page 2. Is it 2? Okay, usually on page 2, they will usually write in the side right here. If they had an early withdrawal, or they'll mention it. Usually the clients will mention if they have that, but usually the answer is no. So we'll continue, especially if they don't volunteer that information, we cannot put it in just because we're assuming.
So in this case, we put no.
No, yes,
Okay.
and then you'll continue.
All right.
Okay, and then you push continue. And the other form we're gonna go over is gonna be, I know we have the SSA form, but I didn't put the numbers on there, so I'm gonna go ahead and just give you the numbers. And on this IRA pension distribution, we're gonna click on Social Security Benefits RRB 1099 and begin. So usually, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, usually here, it'll say the taxpayers, Social Security benefit, which is on box 5. I would enter 12,959 because that's what he received. And if they had box 6 filled in, then we would put the federal tax withheld. But since he doesn't, we're not going to put nothing there. Now, if it was the spouse, we would be putting the spouse information here and the federal withhold. Now, if they had where it said Medicaid benefits on the description of amount, if you could see like on this form, you see right here on this part.
Can
If
you
they
make
would have
that
had,
bigger?
you want it bigger?
Yes, that way you can show in box 5 and 6, so they know what numbers go where.
Okay, this is box 5. That's what we're putting right here in the top where it says taxpayers, Social Security benefits.
Okay.
So right here, if they had federal withheld, we would see it, it would be on the bottom because this form is not out of
Outdated.
date.
Yeah.
Yeah. So usually it would be right here and it would say federal tax withheld, and we would
I
put that amount.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they had Medicare premiums, it would be listed right here in the description of amount and right
In
here.
box 3. Right.
Yes, but since they don't have nothing, they don't have nothing.
Okay.
And then the name, of course, we're gonna go by either the taxpayer or the spouses, and it would be here in box 1, and their Social Security, of course.
Actually, question, and for box 3, is that like if they pay Medicare a year?
Mhm.
Because I think my mom, she pays like $800 to Medicaid a year, Medicare. So would that be listed there?
For box 3, no. Usually the ones that we pay attention to are box 5, and then the description for the Medicare premiums and the federal withheld. That's all that matters
Okay.
for the form.
Okay.
Okay, so since this is just the 12,959 for the taxpayer, that's all we're gonna put, and then we're gonna push continue. Give me a second. Right here, continue.
So where it says lump sum payments begin worksheet, that's something else.
Yeah, just
You
what,
don't-
yes, just what we
Yeah,
filled in
okay.
here, that's all we're gonna put. Everything else you don't pay attention to unless it's on the form.
Unless, okay. Thank
And
you.
then you push continue.
And it brought us back to the same.
Yes, and you're gonna push continue. And then the other form that we were talking about was the 1098T. So let's see, where's that form? Let me get to that form, give me a second. Okay, oh. Here's the 1098T form. You see the form right here?
Where?
This is the form 1098T, the
Uh-huh.
education. So when we
Right.
get to this screen, here, if we don't want to look for the form, we can always come to the form finder, type in 1098T, and it'll take us straight to the tuition statement. You click on there, it'll take us directly to the form. We're not gonna keep this information in, but we're gonna put it in there just so I can show you how to fill out the tuition statement. Okay,
Okay.
so we're gonna leave the dependent's name. We're gonna click American Opportunity, because let's say that she only has this is her first year in college. And then we'll get to the qualifying expenses right now. The name of the university is Ashland University. So we're gonna put in Ashland University.
Can you slow down? Because I can't find that form.
You
Under
over here on the side, do you see where it says form finder?
Okay, hold on, please. Let me open up where it says practice lab.
No, you don't
Okay.
click up here. Over here on the blank form, and it says form finder.
Oh, I don't have that. Hold on, because I'm on my phone.
Okay.
So I don't know where I would find the form. I don't
If
think I
you-
have access.
If you can, just go to the income part right here
Uh-huh.
where you were at. And then
Yes,
you could push continue on the bottom.
okay.
And then where
Alright.
it says credits menus on deductions,
Uh-huh,
you push begin,
okay.
and then education credits
Oh,
is the
it's
third
right
one.
there.
Yes,
I see. Okay, I got it.
so you would
So
go
now
there.
it's her name, Cheryl Sims.
Yes. And then you would click American Opportunity.
Okay,
You would put Ashland University as the name of the institution.
Ashland.
And then the address is 319 Kendall Circle. So we're gonna put 319 Kendall Circle. The zip code is 38101. We're gonna put 38101. You usually push tab and it'll give you the city, Memphis, Tennessee, and the state. And then
319, okay.
319 Kendall Circle, zip code 38101. You push tab, it should tell you Memphis, Tennessee.
38101.
Yes.
Yes,
Is
Okay.
everybody there?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. And now it asks you, did the student receive a form 1098T from this institution? If we have this form, the one that I'm on, the 1098T, and you see it, then you're gonna push yes. Did the student receive 1098 form from this institution with box 2 filled in and box 7 checked? So we look over here, is this box filled or this box filled? No, right?
Oh,
So we're gonna put no. So now it asks us for the federal identification number of the school, which is right here, Filer's Federal Education, 52, 52, 200. You could just put zeros all the way. Just for practice
Mhm.
purposes. And then it's gonna ask, has the Hope Scholarship Credit or American Opportunity Credit already been claimed on 4 prior tax returns? For this purpose, we did say this is gonna be her first year, right? So we're gonna click that she has not received it for the 4 prior years. If she did, then we would put yes. If they already had claimed it for 4 years, we would put yes. But since this one, for this purpose, we're only doing 1 year, we're gonna put no. Now, was the student enrolled at least half-time? If box 8 has an X or a check mark, that means they were enrolled half-time. So we would put yes. Right? Now it says, did the student complete the first 4 years of the post-secondary education before 22? Since this is gonna be her first year that we're putting. What was that? Did somebody have a question?
No, go ahead. I muted them.
Okay. Did the student complete the first 4 years of post-secondary education? We're gonna put no because we're doing the first. Now, on the application, it states, where's the application? it would state here, you know, if they were a full-time student, it would have yes. And for this purpose, we are saying yes, you know, because we're trying to do I'm trying to show you how to do the 1088T. But it would also tell you on like on the scenario, if they had controlled substance or if they had stuff like that. So for this case, we would put no, because they have not a felony or possession of distribution of controlled substance. They haven't been convicted. If they would, the client would state that on the application. And then up here to determine the qualifying expenses, we go back to the 1098T. Can everybody see the form?
Is it the 7,800?
Okay, for the expenses, usually what we do is we get the calculator, right? Where's the calculator?
You're gonna have to search for it.
And we would get their payments, which is the amounts that they paid. And we would subtract it from the scholarships that they got, which is 3,300. Remember what I had said on the rule of thumb right here. Their qualifying educations can't exceed 4,000. So she's at 3,300. That's where we're gonna put 3,300 to determine the qualifying expenses, because that's how much they paid with their scholarships deducted. And this would be it for this education credit part. And then it'll take you to the second page. I mean, if you wanted to add like another student, if they had more dependents that they needed to add, you would add another student here. And then we would push continue.
Ashley, can you show them that it will make a change if you were to click on the box that she's 18 and goes to college? Because right now it didn't change.
Okay, yeah. So for dependents, we'd go back to the dependent menu, edit, and we would put that she is a person that was over 18 and a full-time student, just for this purpose, so that way the form could go through. That's the only one that you would check. Did you guys do that? Right now, sorry.
I think you have to change the date of birth también, no, Ashley? In order for it to kick in?
Oh, yeah, because for that purpose, let's put
2001.
Yeah.
So you want us to go ahead and go back?
Yes, so that way you could see the difference, how it works. Go back to the dependent qualifying child information. You can click here on the side and it'll go, you can go to basic information and then click on dependents. We would change her date of birth to 2001. And then we would click on the first, this person was over age 18 and full-time student.
Basic information you said, right?
Yes, basic
Where it
information up
says
here.
dependent,
And then dependents,
right?
and
so
then
we're
push
gonna
the edit.
And we're gonna change her date of birth to what?
To 2001, just the year.
Right.
But it should be 2004, no? So if it has 18,
If it has what, 18 what?
18 years old,
Okay.
if the kid is 18 years old,
Well, she would be
or it
18
doesn't
and
matter.
over.
It doesn't matter
Yeah,
as long as
she's
she's over 18.
Yo nomás leí que decía, oh, sí, es en-
So, and we're gonna
was it
check
for
the
this
box
Thursday
that's,
or next Thursday?
We're
Because
gonna
says
change-
which person was over 18 and a full-time student.
Yo no creo que es mañana.
Yes.
Okay.
Usually for this purpose, we're just doing the year doesn't matter as long as they're over 18. So
Over
that way,
18, correct.
yeah, so
correct.
that way we can put in this form. Usually we'll have the correct date of birth, of course.
Right.
And then we're gonna check
can
mark
actually
the
put
box
in-
where it says this person was
They have
over
the big
age.
room, the one we went to. That
18.
one, they have the tables and the chairs.
Leslie, you're not muted. This person was over 18 and a full-time student. So we will leave that and push continue. So that way we could see our federal refund change. Well, continue.
Mine didn't change.
It's still like 89.
Okay, let me see. Let's put the 4,000 then.
So go back to,
To the education credit. And instead of the 3,300, let's see if it changes with the 4,000. To put the maximum amount, just so we could see if it changes. Because I don't know why it's not changing sometimes. No, but it still doesn't change. No, yes. No, it doesn't change still. Usually it gives them the credit, but I'm not sure. Let me see. When we want to check the tax return, we can always go to the summary and print, and then we see the actual tax return.
did you want us to change the amount instead of 3,300 to 4,000?
Well, it didn't make a difference, so you could leave it
Oh.
at 33.
Okay.
Okay, so all these have the lines messed up.
It could be because since it's a practice, it's not picking it up.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes
It's already a set.
yeah, because usually they'll have like, I'm trying to show you when they have like their, or maybe because let's try to enter a W-2. Let's see if that helps. So go to income and then W-2. To see if that changes anything. We all know what the W-2 form looks like, right? It's this one that
Yes.
we went over yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. Can somebody mute their thing? Okay, so this is the W-2 form, and this is the one that we're gonna go on. So we're gonna put it for, let's say, the wife, Myra Ortega. So of course, the address is gonna stay the same because we're gonna go by what's on the W-2. Since I don't have the information on here, I'm gonna show you. The wages and tips, we're gonna get it from box 1. We're gonna put 9,435. 9,435. Her federal income would be here in box 2. We're gonna put 110. And then usually the SSA wages and the Medicare wages are the same, but if they're not, we're gonna put whatever's on the form, remember. Because sometimes they could be higher. And then also with this one, sometimes the cents are usually off. So if it said 96 and it populated 97, we have to make sure we put 96. And the same with the Medicare tax. So that would be it for the W-2, and then we go all the way down. Yesterday I was talking about like if they had retirement income. And since the spouse is the one with the retirement income, we wouldn't click nothing here, and we wouldn't populate nothing here. So then we're gonna push continue. Oh wait, sorry about that. We have to still enter the EIN number, the employee number. So for this purpose, we're gonna use 71-038-8071. And then tab, because the address populates on there as you push tab. And then everything else is complete. Remember, we're gonna go with whatever is on the form for the address and the EIN and all that. And then we push continue.
Now it changed.
Can you go back a little bit? I missed some information.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
So we're doing the wife, Myra Ortega.
Uh-huh.
We're leaving the address the same. Then for the employer, we're putting the EIN number as 71.
Yeah, I have that. I just need the wages.
Okay, the wages is 94.35.
Okay.
And then the federal tax withheld is 110. And you just
10.
push tab, and everything would populate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then you push continue, and you see since they have wages now, the education credit comes out. So I guess because they had retirement and Social Security, it doesn't really give them credit for the education. Now they have the earned income credit. So this is a due diligence checklist that it usually asks for. Was the taxpayer's spouse a non-resident alien for any part of the year? No, because they were all US citizens. Is the taxpayer's spouse a qualifying child of another person? No, because nobody can claim them. Did you complete the return based on information for tax year 2022 provided by the taxpayer or reasonably obtained by you? Yes, because we go by everything they give us. Did you interview the taxpayer, ask adequate questions, and document the taxpayer's responses to determine that the taxpayer is eligible to claim the credits and head of household filing status? Yes, because that's what the intake thing is for, the intake application, which is
Miss
this
Ashley, where is this at?
due diligence right here. When you click on earn income credit on the side,
Yeah.
you see this tab right here? It'll pop out these questions.
Oh, okay, found it. Thank you.
Yes. And then right here, where was I? We determine the credits that they have because we go by what is here. Like this one would be married filing jointly, of course, because on part 2, it says marital status and household information. And we go by married. They lived with their spouse during the part of the 6 months of 2022. If yes, did you get married in 2022? No. So that's how we determined here. Did you review adequate information to determine the taxpayer is eligible to claim the credits of household filing status and in what amount? Yes. Did any information provided by the taxpayer, a third party, or reasonably known to you in connection with preparing the return appear to be incorrect, incomplete, or inconsistent? So if we felt like the taxpayer was lying to us, or of course, we would always reject the return. So we didn't fill it. Did you satisfy the record retention requirement? So did you meet the record retention requirement? Did you keep copy of the documents, which we do, provided by the taxpayer that you relied on to determine eligibility or to compute the amount for the credits? We always keep a copy of, you know, their W-2, their 1098-T forms, all forms and documents that are given, we keep copies of it while we're doing their return. Their social security, their IDs and everything. Of course, if you feel the need to add notes, you can add notes here just for your purposes so we know what you're doing. Did you ask the taxpayer whether he or she could provide documentation to substantiate eligibility for and the amount of the credits of head of household filing status claimed on the return? Usually we do ask on this form. That's where we get all our information. If the taxpayer or the clients were in front of us, then of course we would ask those questions to them directly. Did you ask the taxpayer if any credits were disallowed or reduced in the prior year? Of course, once again, those questions we would ask if the taxpayer was in front of us, since we are dropout services. Everything we're getting the information and that they're signing is that on this form. So when they sign the end of this form, they're stating that everything that they have on this application is accurate and true. Oh, where did it go? So where was I? Okay. So qualifying child number 1, Cheryl Simmons, is the child currently or intended to be a qualifying child of any other individual's tax return? Usually whenever they say that the dependent can be claimed by somebody else, they would let us know here by how many months the child has lived with them. The EIC questions, have you determined that this taxpayer is in fact eligible to claim the EIC for the number of children from whom the EIC is claimed? Excuse me. To determine that the taxpayer is eligible to claim the EIC, on the summary print, you would be able to see that here. If you click on summary print, it'll take you to the 1040. And on page 2, I believe, it'll let you know earned income tax credit. If they get credit here, is because they got credit for the child on line 27. Where was I?
It does show the earned income.
Okay, it would show on there, so that would, we would put yes. Did you explain the taxpayer to the taxpayer that he or she may not claim the EIC if the taxpayer has not lived with the child for over half the year? Remember, they usually don't get credit if the child has only lived there for less than 6 months. If they've been there from 6 months to 12 months, then they will get some credit, even if the taxpayer has supported the child. So we would put yes in this situation. Did you explain to the taxpayer the rules about claiming the EIC when a child is a qualifying child or more of one person? Usually the tiebreaker rules applies, like say if the husband's claiming it and the wife is claiming the child. And we would go by our 4012, on our 4012 handbook, it'll state the tiebreaker rules. So here, since they're married filing jointly, of course it would be yes. Because we do explain that we always want to educate our clients as much as possible, because some of them don't know anything about the earned income credit or any credits that they can get. So we want to make them aware of what they get whenever they're doing their tax return. And usually the site coordinators or the one that goes and has them sign the paper will explain to them to make sure that everything is accurate on the form, and that what credits they're getting and why they're getting this certain amount of money.
So when I'm following you is, will the client be in front of us or no, at no time?
No, this year and last year we had a dropout service due to COVID. So this year too, we're going to keep it like that. So that's why everything that we're going by, we're going to go by the intake interview review sheet.
Got it. Okay, got it.
So that's how we would fill out these questions. Usually though, on our system, this is just for the practice lab. They ask these questions for due diligence, but on our system, they don't ask these questions.
Okay, I got it.
But this is just so you're aware and you can, explain if you have family members and stuff that, need to know what's going on with their tax return. Does the child reside with the taxpayer who is claiming the credit, the child tax credit? Yes, because if they weren't, they wouldn't get the credit, right? Did you explain to the taxpayer that he or she may not claim the child tax credit if the taxpayer has not lived with the child for over half of the year, even if the taxpayer has supported the child, unless the child's custodial parent has released a claim to exemption for a child? So once again, these questions do apply when the taxpayer is in front of us. We would let
Ashley,
Yes,
What about if the child lives 6 months and 6 months, like a shared custody?
then that would go back to the tiebreaker rules up here. So if you claim them, you would say that somebody else can claim them as well. Like down here,
Okay,
it would ask you if somebody else can claim them as well.
okay. Thanks.
That's how you would know, and then they would determine who gets how much, and the IRS would determine who gets what portion.
Okay.
And then, did you explain to the taxpayer the rules about claiming the child tax credit for a child of divorced or separated parents who live apart, including any requirement to attach Form 8332 or a similar statement to the return? So that once again applies to the question like you just said. If
Mhm.
they're like divorced or separated and they both can claim them, then that would be up to the IRS to determine how much, who gets what, and how much to each parent. But they will both receive an amount. Do you certify that all answers on this form 8867 are to the best of your knowledge true, correct, and complete? Which I said here on the end of this form in the back page of the yellow form, they would have to have signed the form, which is the form 8867, and they would certify that everything on their application is correct, true, and complete. So it would be yes. Qualifying children who are not the taxpayer's son or daughter. Did you ask why the parents were not claiming the child and document the answer? So usually whenever they put, like a cousin or somebody else other than their grandkids or children or stepkids, then we would of course ask this question. And then continue. Oh. Just to get out of the page. Okay, so y'all did notice how the federal changed once we put in the W-2 form, right?
Yes.
And then if we want to check everything to make sure everything's correct, we go back to the summary and print.
Is being recorded.
I'm sorry? Oh. So we would go back to the summary print page, and here make sure all the numbers are the same. Here of course we have the single married filing jointly standard deduction of $12,950, which would be applied, but since they're married filing jointly, it's $25,900. Right? 25,900. So then they would add it with their wages and other forms. And then here you would see their refund amount of how much they would receive, which is the 2016. It's just that my screen shows it a little lines above, so
Right.
I don't want to
And we're
confuse
getting
you
a
guys.
summary. Mhm.
Yes, but if you click over the number, it'll tell you.
Right.
So that's how the summary looks. And here's where they would sign and date. Oh, let me show you one more thing that I forgot. So you know how I said that she had identity
Oh, yes.
theft, right? So you go to the basic information. You go to the basic information, and then you would click on IRS Identity Protection Pin and push begin. And since it was the wife that had
Is being recorded.
since it was the wife that had the identity pin, right? Myra brings a letter from the IRS issuing her identity theft pin number. We would put in the number that is right here, 843510 on hers, 843510. And you want to put it to the correct, one. You don't want to put it on the
Right.
husband and throw off the whole return
Right.
or the daughter. And then we would just push continue. But if they all had it, you would add them all on there. Any questions over the forms that we went over? Did everybody understand how to enter and everything?
Yes.
Anybody was
Yes.
lost?
Yes.
Yes, you were
Everything
lost?
was good. No, 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 we got it.
Okay. So that's how would we determine everything. Of course, if they had a health insurance, we would go to the health insurance, or if they had the state forms on their W-2, like say we go into the W-2 form. And remember, I was telling you that
Being
sometimes,
recorded.
sometimes I was telling you that they have state information in this, where we would enter in the state information, the state name, the state EIN, and the state wages and state tax paid. And then we would put continue, right? And then we would go to the state section. And we always need to add, if they have state return on the W-2, we would have to add it on here and push continue. Of course, since it doesn't have it, it's not gonna let me put it, but that's what we would put the state information. We'd go to the state section because it will generate a refund for them here too, or if they owe that state any money. And then, of course, at the end, we'd go to the e-file part, the end of the return. Oh, wait, since we're not gonna do the health insurance today, we're just gonna put no here. And then we would go to the e-file part. Because of course, after we're done doing the tax return, this would be the ending. So on the return details, since this is a practice lab, we would put direct deposit if they wanted their check direct deposit. If they wanted to receive a paper check, we would just put e-file paper check. Or if they're, for some reason, they cannot e-file and they needed to do a paper return, we would do paper return and they wanted direct deposit, we could do it like that, or we could just give them the paper return and then they would have to mail it in. We would give them the envelope and provide everything for them so that they can, you know, do it. For this purpose, I'll just put paper check. Well, let me show you, like when it has direct deposit, it'll go to the next question. Of course, here we never charge the clients anything, so we would leave this blank and just push continue. And then here's where the bank accounts. They have up to 2 bank accounts that they can deposit the money in. So if they had a checking, we would put checking, the bank name, we would pull the refund. If they wanted half and half, of course, we would divide it into half. There is no cents. We cannot put no cents in there. So we would have to put an actual amount. And then, of course, the routing number of the bank, confirm the routing number, the account number, and the bank number. And then if they wanted another to put it one into the savings, you would put the savings. Again, the same thing, bank name, the other portion of the deposit, the routing number, bank number. Just confirming. And since we're not doing bank, I'm gonna change it back to paper check so we can continue, so I can show you the rest. So
So it'll be paper return? Is that what you're saying?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, paper return.
Yeah, okay. So we wouldn't charge them.
Charge nothing because we don't
Right.
charge.
Correct.
And then usually we'll have questions here on our return. This, since it's a practice lab, it's not gonna show us the questions, but we will have questions. And they're usually yes, yes, no, no, yes, no, yes, yes. Because
Okay.
it's for like global caring and, you know, accurate information.
Okay.
And then the submission page. When we get to the submission page, we get to where the refund is, their state refund if they had any. Paper file copy. We would put mark tax return ready for review. You're never gonna put complete because you are not the qualifying reviewer and you're not, you're just a tax preparer. So you're just gonna put ready for review. So the next person, the qualifying reviewer or the site coordinator could review it.
Okay.
And you would just click that one and then save and exit. Never put, there's gonna have another one that says save and transmit or save and return or
No, save and exit.
it's always save and exit. Yes.
Okay.
So that way it could be there.
It has been submitted for review.
Yes. And then of course here the name would, oh wait, this is for something. On our site post they'll issue you out, you know, you'll make a password and username for that purpose. Once you're already in the system to log in. Any questions?
No.
Everybody understood everything? Everything looked easy? Y'all
Mhm.
good?
I think we just need practice though.
Yes. Well, that's why the practice lab is there. So with the scenarios that you have on the basic, on your, I believe, what form is it? The 6744?
Yes.
6744, you know, you have scenarios there. You can always practice with those scenarios on the practice lab and
Ashley, I had a question. What we were going over tonight, is that just for the people that are doing income tax preparers? It's not for the intake, correct?
which one? I'm sorry?
What we learned tonight, is it just for the tax preparers or also for the intakes?
This is for everyone. So if you're
Okay.
the intake, I know you're gonna be with us, so you will be different. So I'll talk to you later about that. So for those
Okay, no,
who
that's
are,
fine. I was just learning.
yes, for those who will be volunteers doing tax preparation, this is what it will look like. For the
Yes.
scenarios, we do have 4 scenarios. I added the ones that she was originally gonna go over in the email, and then on Friday I'll include the whole packet, which includes 4 scenarios.
Yes,
For
but it's very important for the intake to remember though, that whenever they are receiving, let me go back to the intake. Whenever they are looking at these forms, that they want to make sure that everything is filled in correctly, like their name, their last name, and that they have an accurate phone number where we can reach them. Also the mailing address, because sometimes these clients, they tend to leave this information blank and we have to be calling them and we don't want to be doing that. So we just want to make sure that if you're working for the intake, that you make sure that all this information is on there before even giving the tax preparers the intake form and the documents. You want to make
And
sure that everything is there.
also, Miss Ashley, so when we're taking like the information, like how that one says Danny, we also want to double check the social security card to make sure that everything aligns up with that, correct?
Well, the social security card's gonna be, the copy of the social security card's gonna be on there. So if they just put Danny, that's fine. Because anyways, we're gonna go by, as tax preparers or the ones that are doing the taxes are gonna go by whatever is on the social. That's why I said during this practice is that we're going by whatever's on their social security card. The only thing that we're going by here is their date of birth, their, you know, job titles and all these other information. But as far as their names, we're always going to go by their social security and what's on the W-2s, 1098Ts, all that information.
Yes, for the intake people, we always ask the client for an ID, their driver license, something that has a picture and all of the information along with the social, so that we can correlate the information. Because sometimes they write it down, but they write a different birth date for the dependents because they don't remember. Sometimes parents don't remember when the child was born for some reason, and they put something else. So we check the ID.
Okay.
Right,
I
thank
have a
you.
question for you. Leslie, on the email, you said something about training material. So we need to go pick it up at the office?
You don't, it's available online. That's the publication we were talking about, the 4012 and the 6744. So those
Okay.
are the materials that we got here at the office. If you want a physical copy, you can come and pick it up.
Okay. That was
And
my
if you
question.
want me to print out the scenarios for you to practice on, I can do that too.
Okay.
Also, another thing I would like to mention is that sometimes on this form, the clients, like the Mexican clients, you know, that will fill out the form, they usually put like the date of birth backwards. So you want to make sure that you look at it correctly, because sometimes they'll put the date and then the month in the year instead of the month, day, and year. So for the intake people, if you don't want to be confusing the taxpayers, I think you should ask like, or have them put it in by month, day, and year, because I know sometimes they put backwards. And then we're putting it in, and then it gives us it rejects the return because it says the date of birth was incorrectly. So that's another thing to look for as well when the intake are taking in this form. Any other questions you guys have?
Nope.
Okay, I just want to say that next week we are still trying to work on the AC. So I will send an email all on Friday and a reminder on Monday on where we're gonna locate our next study session. We do want to have it in person. That way we can all go actually through the practice lab, and that way y'all can have practice on that. So if you have any questions, you will be right there for you to ask us anything. Or if you want guidance on some of the basic exams questions, we can also help you out on that. So just keep a lookout on the email. I will include the recordings also on the email on Friday, so everything will be provided. And then for the training materials, when we meet in person next week, I will be having some wherever we are located. That way you don't have to be coming to the office like these few days. So just wait until next time
All
we
right.
meet.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, for those who did not sign in, please use the link in the chat. And once you're done, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me sign in.